Here we go.
So, welcome. This is the first Monday of the month of June, and we are here for Courageous Conversations. So, I want to welcome Carol and Becky and anyone who watches the replay. Welcome to this opportunity for us to share our thoughts, our insights, and inspirations around courage. And we're going letter by letter. We have completed the letter C. We have talked about community, compassion, clarity, connection, and I believe that's it. Yep, that's it. We've talked about those. And today we're going to start on the O part of courage. So today I would like to talk about the word open. And this is a word that has so many meanings. I looked it up in the dictionary and it has a plethora of meanings. So when you think of open and you think of courage together, let's explore what that might mean. The first thought I had was when you have courage and you're practicing that quality of courage in your life, you're willing to open doors that you may not have been willing to open before. So opening doors is kind of like a image of stepping out of your comfort zone, right? So I'm going to open this door that I have not gone through before, and I am open to the experience, to the adventure, to the learning, whatever is on the other side of that door. So that's what I thought of. So I'll kind of open the conversation with that thought of opening doors and how that takes courage. So I'm going to hear what you have to say in terms of what came to your mind when I paired the word open with the word courage.
Well, I thought of a flower, and I don't know how courageous it is, but a flower opens its petals, and I think of it as we seek to learn and grow, we open the petals and experience new areas of our lives.
Yeah.
Um, I always think of the onion analogy also, but I like the idea of the petals better because we become the beautiful thing that we're meant to be.
Yeah. I love that. I love
When
that.
we open our petals and I guess it takes courage because when a plant is growing, it needs water, it needs sunshine, it needs all these different things. So we need to feed it the proper things so that it can grow and blossom, right? So that opening.
Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking that if we consider ourselves the flower, the plant, we're making that analogy. There's so much that goes into a flower opening because I have a gardenia plant in my yard. I love gardenias. I just love the scent. And the flowers were not opening. The buds would come on and they would fall off before they would open. And so my daughter is a landscaper and she knows all about plants, so she looked it up and the fact was we weren't giving it enough water. And as soon as we started giving it more water because it's on a drip system,
Yep.
it needed more water than it was getting from the drip system. And then right now today when I went on my walk, it was covered with blooms, just covered.
Awesome.
And so I was
Awesome.
thinking, what's water, what's our water?
Mhm.
What just like you were saying, I love that analogy. Thank you for sharing that because that just I just thought of that plant right away and how much joy those flowers give me because I provided them with what they needed to grow. So we being open requires courage, it requires knowledge, it requires a willingness to problem solve the problem, right? And so
Mhm.
many times we open a door, it's something new to solve. Yeah, I love that, Carol. Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not someone that thinks about like a picture when I think about something. So I love that you both like are describing like a visual. Um, because my first thought when you asked the question of open and thinking about courage, I thought about vulnerability and just the idea of, when I'm open, when I'm feeling like it's taking courage to be open, I'm thinking about vulnerability. That was like my initial thought. No visual, just understanding that it takes vulnerability to be open, and that, of course, means that there's courage in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that because when I think of courage and vulnerability together, I think of open-heartedness, open-mindedness. And
Mhm.
when I was looking at all of the definitions on the dictionary, I mean, there's like, let me see, how many does it go to? It goes to like 42 different,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
you know, uh,
Wow.
yeah. So it's interesting because it talked about, you know, being an open wide receiver like football,
Mm.
so you're a wide receiver's open to catch the ball, and that's kind of and I am a visual person, so I always go to go to visual ways to do it. And open, open to suggestions, open to, I like this one says open to disregard of the rules.
Mm.
That takes
Ah,
courage.
that could
That
be
takes
neat.
courage, right? Because sometimes the rules are confining boundaries, right? I mean, not that we're going to break the law and rob a bank, but there are rules that definitely are constricting, that are created by others to hold us down, right? To set us within boundaries. A willingness to be open. Um, there are just so many different ideas here. To be undecided and unsettled, and that's part of vulnerability, right? You're open because you want more information, you want a confirmation, you want a valid feeling that you're open, and that you're following a journey, and you're willing to do that, which takes so much courage because you don't know the results, and yet you're unsettled and you're undecided and you want to go a different way. You want to do something different, and that takes a lot of courage, I believe, to step out of the path and try, practice, not try, practice a new way of thinking, a new way of being. Yeah, so I just by looking through these 47 uh, sentences and ideas of what openness is, I mean, a lot of them are just, like the old, like not closed or barred, like a window or a gateway. I mean, all of that can be visual images of our willingness to be vulnerable and step into the unknown. And that takes courage, so much courage. Yeah.
The
So what
thing
else
that
are you
I
thinking?
see, Terry, the thing that I see is that instantly I just looked really quickly to see what I'd see right away when I Googled it. And it was the one thing that jumped out at me that I was drawn to was to make something available.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, right, and then I was connecting your visuals with making things available because when we open a door, then what's available is what we see, as we walk through it or open a window, and like what's available to enter or exit, like so I like thinking about what becomes available with the openness. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that one is one that caught my eye too. It says, without restrictions, like an open competition or an open session where there's not restrictions, and that kind of goes along with the rules, being willing to step out of that. And then it says something that's not taken or filled or preempted, but it's available, it's vacant, so that space that's available to us to fill
Mm,
with whatever that is that we want to accomplish or what we want to learn or experience. There's that space, and it takes courage to step into that space. Yeah, yeah,
I thought about I thought about an opener, like a can opener. And I'm
mm.
like, but we as openers can be make things available for other people. That's what you were saying. So, you know, being vulnerable to be open and
yeah,
opening for others.
yeah, yeah. That's like the cans with no labels. I don't know where I've seen that. I don't know if it's on a show or what, but you see people opening cans with no labels, and just a surprise of what they get. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, those are all really helpful when we're thinking about courage. Is that quality of being open, whether it's open-hearted, open-minded, uh, vulnerability is being open, and courage is just such an important part of being willing to step up, step out, step in, right? Any of those.
So something else that
Open-ended,
was, oh,
open-ended, I just thought of,
Hmm.
you know?
open-ended. Yeah, that leaves room for that space.
Hmm.
Hmm. Space is
Yeah.
what was coming to me from that last part too, was about how openness, right? It opens the room space up for things to come in or flow, um, or take up space. And I was thinking about like on the emotional level, thinking about like the courage it takes to be open-hearted and open-minded and stuff. It's like when we come to experiences with people that we can clearly tell they are the opposite of open, right? They're closed, then, they really probably don't have the capacity. There's another C. They don't have, that space is not available to them to be open, for them to be vulnerable and like have that. So that was just coming to me like when you said something that triggered that idea of like, yeah, the space needs to be there in order to welcome it. If we're full up on something and we're at capacity to take in the chunks of new information or something, then there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
It's an overflow that doesn't actually go anywhere
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
closed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Another underneath the 47 definitions is another 30. So I was looking at those. Just the way we've been talking about it, it just kind of takes it out of the opening doors and windows,
Mhm.
analogy. But we talked about to rendering something accessible, to open it is to like open empathy, open compassion, open all those things we talked about that are courageous, to expand or unfold, like opening a map or opening a book. So expanding, um, spreading out, just there's so many words that can help us understand the power of the courage to open. Because when you think of, I think of myself, I was listening to the book Worthy. I don't know if you've listened to that book or read that book by Jamie Lima. An
Oh, yeah.
amazing, yeah, an amazing book. And I was listening to it today, and as I was walking, and I was thinking, she's talking about her life experience, and I'm thinking about my life experience where I am right now in my life, where I've reached the eighth decade of my life. And do I still have a lot to expand and unfold? Yes, I do. And I think that was a thought that I had as she was talking about her life of, you know, she's a billionaire, and just where she came from and what she did and how she took each of those experiences and built her belief in herself that she was worthy of everything that God had blessed her with, is what she finally got to. And I'm thinking, sometimes I stop myself from having the courage to continue to to unfold, thinking you're done. You're unfolded, your map is open, wide open, and yet it's not. And so that really, really spoke to me when I was looking at that, to uncover, to expand, unfold, to spread out. And that, because I'm kind of at that juncture in my life right now where I'm trying to decide which way to go, which path to follow, to slow down or to speed up, to, what exactly. Um, and I know it can't be exact, which is also part of the frustration of being courageous, is that it's not exact. It's messy. And
Yes.
being able to expand and grow. And so I have some decisions to make. And I think just by this conversation with you and thinking about being open to expansion and to be less compact and less closely guarded, but open up, crack open. What's my next 10 years going to be like? Well, not to think, oh, I'm 80 years old. Well, no. What are my next 10 years? How am I going to expand my gifts? How am I going to share that? from a perspective of someone my age is different than her at 40 or someone else at 50 is different. So I do have the capacity to expand my influence and share and help others on their journey. I mean, that came to me this morning when I was listening to that and was able to make a couple of decisions as I walk and think, walk and talk.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like that expansion, unfolding, spreading out the idea of a map. Most people younger than me don't even know what a map is. I mean, they've never
Yeah.
held a paper map in their hand, right? I have navigated many trips with a map, and had to follow that paper map. There was no GPS, there was no any of that. And so
Yeah.
the idea of a map speaks to me because of my age. I can talk about that and have a real experience with having to navigate and follow all those little lines and say, yes, here I am. There's a town. There's that. Oh, that's the way I need to go.
Yeah.
So that's the one I'm going to stick to.
Well,
Expanding, building, and spreading out. That's open for me.
when you were talking, I was thinking about my map and how I need to take some tape out and um, repair some of the map and, the tattered edges and the rip seams and, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, yeah,
You have to fold them. Becky, you have to fold them, and it's real hard to fold them. After you open them up, it's really
Yeah.
hard to fold them back to the way they were, and they get tattered at the folds, and then you open it up again. Yeah, I can be sitting in the car with my husband or somebody with that map in my lap and trying
yeah,
to navigate and tell him where to go and where to turn. And
I remember those because you fold it to make it smaller so you can use it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, in fact, I picked one up the other day down at the chamber because I don't know why they had them, but I think they just had them for
See, now you have a
necessity.
new map.
Yeah. And so it was
Okay, so now
fun.
you have a new map. You can go any
Yeah,
direction you want.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the challenge with maps is that we do grow so quickly, right? Like new buildings go up, new roads created constantly, and that's how maps get outdated. And you find yourself, well, shoot, that looks like a faster route, and as a more maybe a more scenic route, or whatever the case is. But I think about how quickly maps get outdated, right? Because we're expanding so quickly,
Hmm.
and the challenge that goes along with that. And yeah, I like the unfolding. I love knowing, like, if you just only look at the one corner of the map because it's folded up so much, right? If we don't spread out and see the full picture of the state, we'll just say, right? Like, ooh, that could be like the state of your being. Then, you're very limited. You're
Yeah.
very limited. And that can be good for focus, right? To have it folded up for a specific point that you're at on your journey. But at some point, you do need to unfold to get a much broader perspective of what you're looking to accomplish. And that is a great analogy to look at. And I was just going on a tangent in my head thinking, like, oh, but maps get so outdated because there's new things coming, roads being construction that'll
Oh, yeah.
completely
Yeah.
stop you. And like I'm thinking about that, the
Yeah.
You are so
rerouting.
wise, Becky.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Because and even today when you use your GPS, your map, it's a map on your phone, right?
Hmm.
Tells you when to turn, where to go. Even then, there has to be some discernment because there's more than one route,
Hmm.
and one may be more quick than the other. And then that road, because of your experience, that road is not a good road. Yeah, it'll get you there, but it's very full of potholes or whatever. I went to a place yesterday and I didn't listen to my GPS because I looked at where it was and I knew a quicker route to get there. And so I just turned it off and I knew how to get there because I experienced it. So experience comes into the use of your map as well. And, prior knowledge and a willingness to go off the GPS. Because I remember when GPS first came in, it would take you some of the weirdest ways to get places. It was ridiculous. It would take you twice as long to get there. It would take you to all these little back roads and stuff. It was like,
Mhm.
I'm getting out my map. My map would have been a lot better.
Yeah.
It takes courage to adapt, right? Absolutely, it
Yeah,
takes courage
yeah,
to adapt and to make the choices because um I mean, even thinking about GPS, how now we know when there's a cop up ahead, it'll tell us there's police up ahead or
yeah.
all of those things too. But then we still have the discernment to say, do I need to slow down? Am I just gonna go? Is this route still what I want? Is there something on this path that I'm gonna, a gas station that I'm gonna go to or whatever that
Yeah, yeah,
still is in
yeah,
alignment because I'm open to the opportunities that are ahead, no taking into account, the timing and the things that I need and my needs
yeah, yeah,
being met.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of layers when you think about courage and op being open. A lot of ways to look at that and implement that in your journey. Well, I'm on a journey that I want to be courageous. And sometimes that is a challenge, to step out, to get out of my comfort zone, um, to succumb to, you know, whatever, fear, uh, doubt, um, grief, shame, whatever those things are that keep us from moving forward and being open. And I think I can't remember who I was listening to that was talking about. I don't think it was the Worthy book. I think it was a different book, but about how maybe it was failure. We just can't look at failure as being something that keeps us from moving forward, that our mistakes are often our best teachers, and thinking of them as lessons and as being open to things that don't work out the way we think they will. So if we're attached to a specific outcome and it doesn't work out, thinking of that as a gift and a part of being open to the journey, because that's really where we learn the most. And that's a mindset that is not promoted in our society. It is by most personal, gurus that talk about personal growth. It is, but out in schools, I mean, I was in the school culture for a long time, and when I was a child in school, failure was not considered to be a good thing or an opportunity to learn more. It was considered that you fell short, you weren't good enough because you didn't win the spelling bee or you didn't get 100 on your test or you didn't have a high enough, SAT score or whatever it was. Um, so I think when we talk about courage and being open, it's also being open to those challenges and to the things that don't work out, First of all, it's good not to attach ourselves to specific outcomes, but to enjoy the journey and to learn on the journey. And the outcome is whatever the outcome is going to be. And that, because sometimes that expectation sets us up for disappointment. And just be open to whatever, be open to the lesson that's going to come with the willingness to take the challenge.
So what's been rattling around in my brain is if we are truly open, do we need to be courageous? Because if we're truly open, people who are like open and they do something and people say, wow, that was really, courageous. And you're like, no, I was just doing what I would normally do, or you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's what made me think about it. It's like the people who do really courageous things don't perceive it as courageous necessarily, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably their mindset, the way that they approach their being, the way that they interact on their journey is that openness they may not call it courage, they may call it a willingness to always go forward. They may call it, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to become, for this to happen. I'm willing to walk that road. I'm willing to, and then it may be that willing is the word that they would use for courage. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah,
And other people may think it's courageous, but to me, it's just a willingness to follow my intuition, a
yeah.
willingness to follow whatever it is that inspires me. And they don't call it that word courage.
Could you replace willingness with openness?
I think you could. I think
Yeah,
that those words are probably synonymous. Courage, willingness, openness, and Becky's word action.
yeah, yeah.
Because all of those things without action, I think in the last post you put on Facebook that I thought was really very inspirational, that it takes doing.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that you asked that, Carol, because for so long, as I was becoming a speaker and stepping out of my fear of public speaking and challenging myself to step out and share and hear my like use my voice and all of those things. So many times people would say that I'm so brave and courageous and bold and all these things, and I was like, I'm just doing the things that I know I need to do in order to conquer this thing that's making me feel small. Like I definitely didn't look at myself as courageous, as I was doing those things. So Terry, what you were saying was really resonating too, but it's like I was just I was identifying as a person. My identity was I am willing to do these things because I know I'm not actually in danger. Like I'm not going to die from feeling nervous. It's just uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So I was labeling myself. My identity was I'm someone that I can do this. I can do it messy. I can do it imperfect. It's going to be okay. Um, and the worst that was going to happen was I was going to feel stupid for a minute or something, right?
Yeah,
Like it was going
yeah.
to feel uncomfortable. So that conversation really resonated with me that I was that person that I mean, still do. People are like, oh my gosh, how do you do this thing? It's like the consistency, the willingness to just step up and say, what's just the next thing? Because so many times, if I'm too open, like, and if think I need to know all the details, like there's again, that map, it's too overwhelming. So that's where the folding it in and kind of looking at okay, it's good to have all of it. And now where's the focus? And then
Mhm.
that is the next step and just kind of having more breakdown and chunked down about what I am open to. It's a protection also, which is, what our fear does in that way. But I'm not in real danger. So it's really just a protection
Yeah.
mechanism to say, only focus on these things that I say yes to. And these are the things outside of, what I'm saying, what I'm going to say no to right now, because I'm not on that journey. I'm not over on this side of the map. I'm here and I need to focus on where I'm here right now to get over there if that's where I want to go.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that my what we're doing in this courage conversation is unpacking really what courage is. So we've spent now, I think this is the fifth month that we've done this, or maybe sixth. And we found all of these words, these synonyms that fit in with what courage is. So courage is just a container for this particular conversation that we're having, a container for all of the components and all of the nuances that are a part of courage. And I think that's what we've kind of opened up today with the O is that courage is much more than what we might have thought of the courage of a lion. I mean, that's always kind of the symbol of courage is a lion, which I am scared to death of lions. I don't ever think of them as anything but fearful. Anyway, which is silly, but I am. Uh, so courage is this container, and now we fit in there open-heartedness, willingness, all of these other things, compassion, clarity, connection, a consistency today. We talked about consistency, we talked about capacity, all of that in this container of courage. And so it's just we're unfolding the map of courage. What it's so complex. There's so many parts to it that we can recognize that we're being courageous when we're being compassionate. We're being courageous when we have clarity in the path that we're taking. So all of these things that we've talked about this morning fit into that container, but don't define it as one thing. And I think that's what you brought up, Carol, really succinctly is that, we may not even think that we're being courageous. We're just being consistent and clear on our delivery of our journey. And that in of itself takes commitment. Another thing that really is important to this journey is that commitment. And for us in OPWP is that community that assists us along our way. And that's one of the powerful parts of this particular venue is the community that allows us to have courage, to be willing, to be open, to be vulnerable. Yeah, so that's why I love this community so much.
And that's why we're here doing this, Terry, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
wanting to have more conversations around courage. And I mean, from going from every week for you doing your podcast it to like, oh, I have so much I want to share and like I don't know what to do. I'm like, let's do it. Let's have more conversations around courage and start to unpack that because we're learning from sharing, our experiences and getting to have the time to unpack it.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
the journey talk that we have today going on this episode, that we're unpacking this so
yeah.
much.
Unpacking, unfolding, expanding, all of those words that we've talked about today. I love words. I just think that words are fascinating. Um, the perspective that people bring to words is so it just expands your capacity to think of things in different ways. And you can take one word, like we took the word courage and we're taking it apart, and we're going to spend a whole year talking about courage by taking the words apart that are underlying meaning for a word. I just think that words have so much power. Words matter, right? That
Yes, I do.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I really appreciate the conversation. We're just about done for today. We talked about doing this once a month. We may expand it to twice a month during my 7 a.m. Monday. Just if people want to talk more about this word of courage and how we can um, define it for ourselves. Because for me today it's unfolding the map. That's what really got to me today is expanding and unfolding that my journey. And I got part of that from listening to Worthy this morning and then talking with each of you. So thank you for spending this 40 minutes. And I believe if I look at my phone, we're overtime, so we will we'll close this out until the first Monday of July. We will continue with this acronym of courage and continue with the letter O. So be courageous.
Thank you. Thank you.